Hi guys, Paul from Journey of a Petrolhead, and we're looking today at the upgrades available for an MGB GT 79 version we have here to give it more drivability in modern road conditions and to give it more power and to just generally spice it up a little bit. They were respected and liked a lot when they came out originally, but obviously life has moved on, so they can't keep up with modern traffic with their old B series engine punching out 95 horsepower. So there are several upgrades you can do. We'll show you a few. I'm breaking them down to three particular areas. The first area is handling. You can have all the power you like, but if you can't put the power down on the road, you're wasting your time. Okay, so the handling upgrades are important, especially on the rubber bumper models, because for the American market they're raised by an inch, as I said in the introductory video. So watch out for that. Handling is important. How do you improve the handling on one of these? That's one. The second area of improvement then, when you have your handling sorted out, is your power. Okay, if you deliver more power, you'll go faster. Okay, so how do you manage to do that on an old B series engine? And then the third place to do an upgrade is potentially the interior. Maybe the interior is worn out. If it's a 1979 original interior, it's probably got rips and tears and the foam has sagged and whatever. What do you do in that space, right? Then there's miscellaneous upgrades you can also do. So this car has had a few external upgrades apart from the obvious wheel change. So for example, this car came out of the factory with black rectangular mirrors. They've been replaced with chrome bullet racing mirrors. For two reasons. One, they look an awful lot nicer, and two, they're better aerodynamically. Right? They give the car a more aggressive racing look than the standard black wheels, which I think brings it down. The chrome here picks up the chrome along the window frames and along the side. So that chrome racing mirror, I think they look really nice. They're a good idea. And then the other thing this has had added, if you can see, there's chrome wiper blades. Some came with chrome wiper blades, some didn't. I like the chrome blades here because they pick up the chrome grille, and again all the other bits of chrome. So as you know, on the Jaguar I drive every day, it's been de-chromed, but in this case more chrome has been added and I quite like it. I think the chrome is good. So those kind of little subtle upgrades, wipers, mirrors, pick up the new wheels as well, they make a big difference. Okay, so handling. How can you improve the handling on a 1979 car? Certainly on the MGB rubber bumper, you can drop the suspension back to where it started off. So the rubber bumpers run an inch higher than the chrome bumpers. So what's happened here is this car has actually been dropped by 2.5 inches. So you get a special lowering kit for the leaf springs. So this runs on leaf springs in the back. And what you can do is you can take the U-bolts, you can extend the height of the U-bolts, which means the car comes down lower, right? 2.5 inch drop on the back, matched by lowered springs in the front. And you have two choices. You can rip the springs out and put new ones in, or you can cut the springs that are in there. Because of the design that's in there, you'll get away with that. This one has had the springs cut in the front to drop it down to match the back, and the whole stance of the car is lower with the response that it doesn't weave. Okay, so if you're standing up and you go around the corner, you'll weave. In this case that doesn't happen. The car is lower, so it corners flatter really, and therefore can be done at a higher speed, right? The second thing that's been done to upgrade the handling here is the replacing of the tires. So the original Pirelli Cinturatos 14 inch, so the 14 inch wheels have been ripped off, 15 inch mini light wheels have been added, and modern rubber has gone on. So the modern rubber has an advantage in that it will grip modern road surfaces better. It's a better tire technology. Okay, so it'll also last longer, it'll be less loud, and it's wider, and 14 inches has been increased to 15 inches. So the car just has a better grip all around. I've been told by the owners that with the new wheels and tires and the lower suspension, the car corners much better. Now the only downside of that is because it's lower, you'll feel the speed bumps more, you feel the potholes more. You've got to be careful going over speed bumps, because obviously the exhaust is right under this car. You've got to be careful you don't hit the back box. Okay, so just be careful on speed bumps if you do lower your car. But in the handling department, strongly recommend for a rubber bumper, drop the suspension and put on modern wheels and tires. However, with modern wheels and tires, make sure they are in keeping with the design of the car. You couldn't put modern alloys on this like it's on an XF or a Golf GTI over there. You need car wheels in period, and mini lights. I think the mini lights look great. You can see them in a lot of cars from this year. I think those mini lights really improve the car. So that straight away sorts out a lot of the driving problems. The handling is far superior. It won't scrape your swing mirrors on the ground when you're going around the corner anymore. So they're worthwhile upgrades. And I would always start, when I'm upgrading a car, I'd always start with handling. Okay, so that's one of our upgrade tips on the MGB GT. The other thing you can do is power. Let's have a look at the power upgrades available to you, and we'll go around the engine and we'll see what kind of things have happened within the engine in this particular car. So, power upgrades on an MGB GT. Several things you can do. The first thing you notice is this isn't a standard engine, right? It's green, okay, painted to reflect the high compression British Leyland engines that came out. So this has actually had a new engine, and what's happened is the compression ratio for the engine has been raised. Standard MGB GT 1.8 B series engine has got 9.0 to 1 compression. This has been raised to just over 10.5 to 1. So you're going to get more fuel efficiency, you get more bang for your buck if you like, and more power. So to match the higher compression, it's got polished pistons, polished ports, polished carburetors, so all the air flows an awful lot smoother throughout the whole engine, right? So you can't see any of that, unfortunately, because it's all deep within the engine, but that's a place to start. That, however, involves dismantling the whole engine. You need to know what you're doing when you tackle that kind of thing. The other thing that's happened to this particular car is it's got a fast Kent road cam fitted, okay, good for an extra 10 horsepower straight out of the box. And that, it gives it a different driving characteristic. And along with a lighter flywheel and a new clutch, the engine spins much freer and gives you a lot more torque down low. It does have a particularly throaty sound, which we'll go through on the test drive as well, and we'll let you hear the engine. It does sound completely different to a normal B. You can tell there's a race cam or a fast road cam in this particular car. The other thing we've done is we've allowed much more air into the air filters. So these things come with what I call horns, big black drums that have air, a tube coming to here, and then the second air tube comes to here and it feeds air, and I think it sucks in hot air from here. I'm never sure about that. These just suck in air full stop, and air feeding straight into the carburetor. So because everything is polished in there, the air goes shooting in much faster, much cleaner. There's a new heat shield as well. Be careful of the old MGB engines. Your heat shields, they're made of material that won't last for long, and if there's any heat at all coming in here, the fuel is going to evaporate. This protects the heat from the engine going into the carburetors, right? Heat going into the carburetors, the fuel will evaporate before it gets in there, or the air will be heated up going in, and it's no use. You won't get as nice a run. So put in a solid heat shield, watch out for that. The other thing you can see, if you look closely enough down there, you see the exhaust manifold is down here. Now the standard exhaust manifold is a cast iron exhaust manifold. First of all, it weighs an awful lot, and second of all, it's got an awful lot of bends and bumps, so the air is bouncing around before it gets cleanly out of the exhaust. In a tuned engine, you want the air getting out of your exhaust as fast as possible. So in this case, what's happened is the cast iron exhaust manifold has been thrown away and replaced with a long center branch exhaust manifold from Maniflow. So what happens there is the air is ejected much smoother out of the exhaust system, straight down the pipe and out. The faster the air goes out of the engine, the faster the car will be. Okay, that's certainly a good rule of thumb. So a long center branch exhaust manifold, good for an extra 10 horsepower again. So between the Kent road cam and the exhaust manifold is an extra 20 horsepower. So we're up to 115 horsepower already in this without really doing a whole hell of a lot. Right, so that's quite nice. With the port and the polish, and the polished pistons as well, you probably get another 10 horsepower again. And all these little gains, we're now at 125 horsepower. You know, that's quite good. How do you know your engine, could benefit from these upgrades? The first thing you need to do is a cylinder compression test. The original engine in this car, so I'm told, when I did a cylinder compression test, 2 of the cylinders were rated well under 100, which means that the engine's had it. So rather than repair the engine, get a better engine, get an engine that's been beefed up, okay? Or get an engine that's in good shape to start off, and then make a modification to that. And that's what the owners did with this particular model. They took an engine that they knew was in better shape. It already had polished pistons fitted to it, so somebody had started to upgrade it. Threw out the old engine, put in a new engine, and it all worked an awful lot better. Okay, so that's much nicer. Now, the other things you can do, I would recommend you put in newer spark plugs. These engines are easy to service. Here is the engine. There's your spark plug under this lead. There's no plastic cover. Okay, that's your oil. Your thermostat is in here. That's all your cooling system. Spark plugs are here. There's your oil filter, distributor cap, alternator. That's the heater matrix. Okay, it's all very, very easy to get to. The fuse box of these things looks completely different. That's your fuse box. It's nice and tiny with glass fuses as opposed to modern fuses. An electronic ignition has been fitted, you can see. That's another good upgrade for this. Right? Get rid of the points, put in an electronic ignition system. You've now got reliable starting and reliable spark through the fire of the engine. Okay, the whole cycle of the engine got reliable spark going on. That's a worthwhile upgrade. Electronic ignition is definitely something worth doing. That looks like a new alternator to me as well, so that's a good idea as well. Right? That's well worth having. An oil service, I mean, you can do an oil service on these yourselves. All you have to do, there's some plug is directly underneath the engine. Jack it up, drain the oil from the bottom of the engine. There's your oil filter, quite simple to reach and change. So if you're going to own a classic car, learn how to change the oil on the spark plugs yourself and just save yourself a lot of trouble. Okay, well worth doing. The other thing they tend to do is overheat, right? So a new thermostat is quite easy to fit in here. Handy tip for replacing the thermostat: I'd take away the rubber plug that came with it and replace it with this, a brass plug, and I'd wind some plumber's tape around that, because in heat that can expand and contract and whatever, you might get a leak. So to seal it properly, wind some tape around the threads of this as you put it in, and that'll seal properly for your new thermostat. That's a new gasket as well, it looks like, so someone has changed the thermostat on the gasket, and these are your cooling pipes. And you'll note the other thing that's missing here, most MGBs, yellow electric fan right here in front of the radiator. This has been ripped away, and in this instance, this upgrade, there's an electric Kenlo fan that looks like to me has been fitted here. Okay, so a Kenlo fan which pulls the air through the radiator rather than pushes the air through the radiator, and that's got 2018 on it, 2019, so that's a new radiator as well. So what's happened here is there's a new radiator, there's a new Kenlo fan fitted, which is powered differently. You have a new thermostat setting, or a new thermostat for the Kenlo fan. That's where they get their power settings from, or their heat settings from. Okay, that will actually keep that engine an awful lot cooler. And because this is ported and polished and has a fast road cam and lots of other upgrades, it's going to run hotter. So it's good to have a proper cooling system. You don't want the car to overheat. Okay, and you want to just check that your pipes are all in good nick as well. That one's actually slightly split, probably do a bit of work. Okay. They're your main power upgrades, right? So, new engine with fast road cam, higher compression, polished pistons, better airflow, a long centre branch exhaust. The muffler has also been deleted from this, so it has a nice throaty sound. Better cooling. New alternator. These are the kind of things that make the car run better. The lighter flywheel is a nice touch, because what the lighter flywheel allows happen is the engine will spin up quicker. Okay, so lighter flywheel just between the clutch and the engine will spin up faster. It just allows for better drivability, better acceleration, better horsepower to kick in. The final thing I do obviously is I put in a cylinder head that could deal with unleaded fuel, which you can see here is allowed for unleaded. So what's happened is there's your fuel filter, it's nice and clean, unleaded fuel has gone in right the way into the engine, so we're not too worried about having to add in lead additive every couple of fills. The only other thing I'd say on these, as I said in the introductory video, is sometimes the fuel tank can get a bit old. So a new fuel tank, fuel pump, water pump wouldn't hurt, and a fuel sender unit. Okay, and that's really what you can do for powering these things, unless you want to put in a brand new Ocelli engine, which is basically this idea. But you can do this kind of thing yourself in your garage, or you can buy an engine out of the crate. But these are the kind of power upgrades that these cars like. So let's move on to the next one. How else do you upgrade your MG? Well, the only thing you haven't done so far is tackle the interior. So let's have a look. This is not. In 1979, these cars did not come with that interior. They came with a deck chair idea. It was blue in the GT and it was orange in the Roadster. Universally hated by one and all, and easy enough to replace, right? Now over time the seating in these cars changed. So in this particular 1979 model, you can see the bench of the seat is not flat, it's coming up a little bit. This is raised. That's from the earlier generation models in mid-70s. Okay, and it just gives more support as you're driving along. So that's a nice change. What they've done is they've taken the foam from an earlier model and they've put covers that were nice vinyl covers on this, so brightened up the whole interior with a lighter color in here. Carpets are quite clean, and changed the door cards. Okay, and these mods are simple enough to do on an MG. They make it look younger. You'll also note in the back, same deal. The bench seat has had new foam and new interior fitted, and it just makes the car look an awful lot cleaner, even down to the footwells. Okay. Now, some people will also add in a radio. There's a gap for the radio here. Okay, preference. I mean, the cars don't come with speakers as standard, but you can put in a radio easily enough. There's power in there for it, and you have to find a way to power speakers and put the speakers somewhere. Personally, if I was putting speakers into an MG, I think I would put them behind the seats. I would probably put them in that panel just there. And there is a huge gap behind that panel, so you can mount a speaker in that quite easily. You can run power underneath the carpets. The other benefit that this car has had in its upgrade is it's had additional soundproofing added underneath the carpets. So the carpets are all lifted, the old felt thrown away, new soundproofing put under the carpets, and then the carpet's glued back on top of that. And it has made quite a difference, I'm told. Makes the car an awful lot quieter. Now, with the proviso, this is a loud car to begin with because of the engine upgrades, but it's made it a lot quieter. So these are the particular upgrades on this particular model. And I would, if I was looking for one of these, I'd look for the Webasto roof idea, because I do like it. It does open and show you an awful lot of air and nice light and whatever, and it does change the interior. Let's just show you this with the Webasto roof open, and you'll see what I mean. And there's the roof open. It folds away quite nicely, and it throws an awful lot of light and sun into the cabin. It makes it a really, really nice place to be when you're driving along. The other things that this has benefited from is new sun visors. With a better mirror, you can see over on the passenger side. The driver's mirror could do with being upgraded. That's an easy enough enhancement too. Okay, and these are the kind of things that can make your car an awful lot nicer. In this particular instance, dashboards are quite easy to swap in and out as well. You can also add LED bulbs behind these gauges. They're easy enough to pop out. The fastest way to get to these gauges is actually to pop out these vents, and then you can reach behind the dashboard and do what you need to do. Various switches and what have you. Okay. The final thing I'll say about the interior of these cars, the clocks tend to stop working. In this car, no different. That clock is stuck. They're easy enough to change again. Because you have a gap here, actually, you just push that straight out and fit in a new clock. And these little bits and pieces make a huge difference. If this was my car, the other thing I'd probably look at is the steering wheel. Steering wheel technology in the 70s was pretty nasty. I don't like this wheel. It's narrow and it's hard and it's not nice to use. It's not a great steering wheel in my opinion. And they're easy enough to change. You can get nice motor leader steering wheels or tourist trophy steering wheels, a couple of £100. Just take this off, there's a nut behind that, unscrew the whole wheel. There's no airbags to worry about. There's no ABS, there's no airbags, there's no computers of any sort in this, so it's quite easy to work on. And it'll be easy enough to get that wheel off and do what you need to do. Okay, while we're in here, let's look and see what else we have in the interior. So I spoke earlier video about the overdrive switch. In 77 it was moved to here, okay, and it's active for third and fourth. A solid tip: do not engage overdrive while engaging reverse. You will blow the overdrive part of the gearbox. Don't do that. And I tend to only use it in fourth because, as I explained earlier, overdrive on third is the same as fourth. I'll only use overdrive on third if I need the higher gear for a very, very short period of time, and I know I'm going to come back down again and go around some bends or whatever. Otherwise I tend to ignore it. I just go into fourth and I use it for cruising. But with the tuning in this car, it does tend to overtake well in fourth over gear as well, so it's nice. Fourth overdrive. And that's it. The only other things to watch out for in this: keep an eye on your oil pressure. It needs to be running at 50, just over 50 when warm. Keep an eye on your temperature gauge, and that's what triggered a known issue with the radiator in this. The temperature gauge was going all the way up to here. The temperature gauge should operate somewhere in the middle and come down when it overheats as the fans kick in. Okay, it should not go beyond the center. If it does that, your car is running too hot, and you've either a thermostat problem, you have no coolant, or your radiator isn't working. In this particular instance, it was actually the thermostat was shot and the radiator wasn't working. There's loads of coolant, but it wasn't doing anything. So watch out for that. Okay. What else do you need to know about in here? Good heaters. The heaters, I suppose, the heaters are good, but there's no way to get hot air on your face. So in this particular instance, it's off, it's warm, it's cold to warm to hot, and it clicks in, okay, all the way around. And you have where the air goes. So interior blows air out down here and blows air out nowhere else really, down at your feet, okay. Defrost blows air out on these vents here. There's no instances to blow hot air through these vents, so watch out for that, okay? Because you might get confused, as I did when I first drove this. Try to get hot air in my face, you can't. These vents, as I said in the intro video, are fed from the grill at the front here, and it's only fresh air coming here. There's no hot air pipe to these vents at all, so watch out for that, okay? If you think turning that on to interior is going to get hot air out of here, it isn't, so don't kid yourself, okay? And then finally we have the choke. Some people watching this video won't know what a choke is. In starting the car from cold, in a car with carburetors, you need your choke. And what you literally do is pull the choke out, just like so. Okay, it locks in position for us. Otherwise, if I didn't lock it, it's just going to go straight back in again, which is no use. Okay. Turn the engine on, and in this car, it only likes to choke for seconds, right? Turn the choke back off again. The air is in the car started, it's good enough to go. Okay, so don't overdo the choke. And we'll show you some of this in driving videos, all right? Okay, there really are no further upgrades I can show you in here. That's kind of an idea as to how you can upgrade an MG between handling, power, and a nicer place to spend time, okay? So I hope this has been helpful. It gives you some ideas. Thanks very much, guys. Like and subscribe, and we'll bring you a driving video to show you what a classic car is like to drive between the overdrive and the choke. We'll show you how it all works. All right. Thanks.